on, all you wonderful A-plusers out there? It is I, Stuart, here once again with another Kamen Rider Saber review, this time talking about episode 11. You know, it feels like now that we've finally gotten to this point in the show, it feels like all the lore and world building that they've been kind of rushing in the last 10 episodes, it feels like now they've kind of thrown it all out there, and now the writers are a lot more comfortable with focusing more on some of the really great character moments that we get in this episode. Not only that, the fight scenes seem to be a lot more focused now, rather than being as all over the place as they were before. And it feels like the side plots that we get in this, they don't take up quite as much screen time as they had been in the previous episodes. More of we just have one kind of main plot that the story really does a great job of focusing on. So yeah, I'm really excited to talk about this episode. Let's break it all down. So our episode does start with a pretty sad moment as Kento does kind of ponder on his father and why his dad betrayed the other riders. He also is trying to wonder what happened to his dad, because this whole time, if you guys remember, we were led to believe that Califor was meant to be his father, but then we find out that the identity of Califor was actually Daishi, the original Kamen Rider Saber. Toma tries to get Kento to open up once more, but Kento, much like in the previous episode, continues to try to isolate himself from the rest of the group. After our opening theme song, we get a really nice scene between Toma and Mei, where it's just the two of them for the most part talking. Like, there is a few jokes here and there in the very beginning of the conversation, but it doesn't feel like the usual over-the-top slapstick kind of humor. It actually feels a lot more grounded this time, like, you know, kind of the casual teasing that friends will do with one another. I really like this scene, even though it has no actual importance on the story of the episode. It was just a really nice character moment that we really just haven't gotten that much of in this episode. Usually the two of them sharing a scene always leads to some over-the-top comedic antics, which I usually don't mind, but it's done so much in this season between the two of them that just having this really nice moment where the two of them are just talking really felt like a really nice change of pace for me. Unfortunately though, this chill conversation is brought to an end when they head to the base of operations and they see Kento and Rintaro having a discourse. Kento reveals that he's going after Califor alone so he can finally get answers as to what actually happened to his dad. Of course, Rintaro believes that this is a very reckless move and tries to stop him from going, even going as far as to try to force Kento into giving back his sword. Kento says he will return his sword after he's gotten the answers he's looking for from Califor. Later, the writers find out that the city is being attacked by goblins this time. So of course, then first thing they do is jump into action. Sophia has to leave the base of operations though, but is uncomfortable with leaving it empty, so she entrusts Mei with the key to the place and asks her to keep an eye on it while she's gone. I really like this. Okay, so this whole season, Mei has been kind of the goofball of the group, not gonna lie, but she also has shown several times that she can be very useful. She has gotten in the way once or twice, but I honestly feel like the good that she's done so far has definitely outweighed the annoyance, I guess. And it's really cool that Sophia sees that in her as well and is willing to trust her with a job as important as, you know, guarding the freaking base. So again, another scene that I normally would have glossed over, but because it was just kind of a really cool character moment for, I think, the both of them, I definitely felt like I needed to put this in. Our writers engage in battle, and one funny note, it's very clear that Ren's actor isn't much of a martial artist in this scene, so they have to speed up the footage in order to make it look like he's not just going through the motions. I don't know if anyone else caught that. It doesn't last very long, and I think I kind of mentioned this in the previous episode, or you know, one of the previous episodes. When we do see them fighting in civilian mode, it rarely lasts more than a couple of hits with the swords before they immediately transform into the Kamen Riders. It's not quite like Power Rangers where that's more of a common thing, and I think it kind of goes to just these actors not really having the martial arts experience that usually goes into hiring for a Power Rangers actor. We get a really amazing scene afterward where Rintaro is trying once again to convince Kento not to act on impulse, essentially. Keep that phrase in mind, acting on impulse. This leads to an amazing moment where Kento tries to tell Rintaro that he doesn't know what it's like to have a father that just, you know, betrays everyone and then, you know, just goes back on everything you thought you knew about him. And Rintaro tells Kento he's right, because Rintaro never knew his parents.
I watched my own birthday party through the keyhole of a locked closet, which also happens to be
your bedroom. Lucky I slept in a dishwasher box.
Again, really amazing character moments, and it definitely makes sense when you kind of look back on Rintaro's character. He swore an oath to the writers years ago that, the writers that he grew up with, his master, for example, the original Kamen Rider Blades was the closest thing he had to a father. He never actually really had blood relatives. And again, when you kind of look back on, his mannerisms and just, how he reacts when he comes across the man that killed his sensei, it really does kind of all add up. And you can definitely tell that these kind of backstories that they're giving to these characters aren't being written like, episode by episode. You can tell they've definitely had this backstory for Rintaro in mind for a while. And it definitely felt like one of those things that had kind of been like put on the sideline as they waited for the right moment to kind of reveal it. And I think this was just, it really added to the scene, making it like a perfect not only development, but kind of a revelation for both characters, honestly, together. We then have a really strange moment where Rika, of all people, calls Kento and alerts him about Calibor's location. Anyone else kind of expecting her to become a surprise villain, or is that just me? Rintaro and Kento arrive at Calibor's location, and they see him with Sophia. Sophia was there earlier because she was trying to get answers, but Kento, not really knowing what to think anymore, accuses Sophia and the other riders of framing his dad for Calibor's actions. But Califor basically reassures Kento that his dad was just as guilty as he was, but he's also very vague about the whole thing. And that's kind of one of the things that really frustrates, in a good way. It kind of frustrates me as a viewer because I feel like it's also frustrating the writers as well. Califor isn't telling them anything in battle. He's being so vague, and it feels like anytime the writers are like, trying to get information from him, the more information he reveals about himself and what his goals are, the more confused the writers and us as an audience become. And I think this is done on purpose in a really well done way. The only thing he really reveals is that he's after eternal truth. And we don't really know much about what eternal truth is, so I'll definitely be eager to find out later on. Kento attacks recklessly, which almost leads to his demise, but he is saved very last minute by Rintaro. Unfortunately, things don't look good for Rintaro now. As he's about to die in Kento's arms, Kento asks Rintaro why Rintaro would do something like that, to which Rintaro replies, "Sorry, I was acting on impulse." I'm not crying. Shut up. In all seriousness, if they kill Rintaro off, I will respect and hate this show at the same time. On the one hand, the thing about Kamen Rider is that another difference between this show and Power Rangers is that people die in Kamen Rider all the time. So going into this, even though it's not quite Game of Thrones where main characters will die left and right, it is still one of those things where, because they're very vague on the fate of Rintaro, I honestly could see the next episode going either way. Don't get me wrong, I hope Rintaro survives. I love his character, and I feel like there's still a little bit more they could do to flesh him out a bit. But at the same time, if he were to actually die in the next episode, I can't say I'd be that surprised, but my fingers are crossed that he doesn't, so we'll have to wait and see on that note. But before we can find out Rintaro's fate, Califor reveals that the world is now coming to an end as beams of light suddenly, beam down to the earth. If you've seen literally any superhero movie ever made, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And he says the world is coming to an end, and when it does, he will then have his eternal truth, whatever that is. All in all, this was another amazing episode. Again, some of the greatest character moments that we got in the entire series. I'm really loving the pacing of these last 4 episodes. I definitely can't wait to see the next episode, and my fingers are still crossed that they don't kill off Rintaro. Great episode, definitely check it out, but at the end of the day, those are just my opinions. We here at APlus Opinions always want to know what you guys think, so definitely let me know in the comments below. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel, and if you guys like the content that we give you here at APlus Morphinominal, be sure to hit that notification bell so whenever we drop new content on the channel, you will be notified. But guys, at the end of the day, just remember to keep it A+.